Hi guys, welcome back to Tigre Gitana. My name is Abby and today we're going to be talking about Mercury. And I've been meaning to make this video since about Gemini season started, so let's get right into it. Mercury is known as the messenger of the gods, and we're gonna it's part of mythology. If you want to look back into that, we're gonna talk about it just a little bit in this video. But basically, Mercury rules communication, ideas, learning, writing, mind, words, how we think. And the important thing to know about this is that the energy of Mercury doesn't necessarily change. Like when you're looking at your chart, you always have to understand that the planets have its own energy. So Mercury will always be this. It will always be how you communicate. It will always be the planet of communication. It will always be the messenger. But then the sign that sits right next to that in your chart is how that manifests in real life. So for example, if you have I'm going to use myself as an example for this. I have Mercury in Capricorn, and Mercury in Capricorn is very much verbally we can be leaders when it comes to making plans. We can analyze situations, and then we're very calculated as far as how we want things to be said, how we want others to do stuff. So we can, like, I'll give you the example of how this kind of manifests in my life, throughout my life. So anytime like I was in school and we would have like a project to do, like a group project, and would come together, and then everybody would kind of just like take a moment to be quiet or whatever, and not like start the conversation as far as how we were gonna do the group project. I would always have to be the one that'd be like, okay, so this is what I think. Like I'll just start throwing out ideas, and then I'll start separating people into like, okay, so maybe you can work on this, and then we can work on this, and then blah blah blah, and then we can all bring that together. Like I was always the one in my group that would kind of take the next step into saying, okay, well, this is what we have to do, let's get it done, which is very cardinal energy. It's about just like doing the thing. It's not just like, okay, the thing has to get done, but like what needs to be done. So how that plays into Mercury is the way that I will take the initiative to communicate, versus if it's in like a more mutable sign or a fixed sign, it might just manifest a little bit different. Where some signs might like wait until somebody else gives some direction. That will come like from like the mutable signs. Some of the mutable signs, not all of them. Some of the fixed signs as well. Some signs just need a little bit more direction, and that's where the cardinal signs come in. If you have, like, for example, Mercury in Pisces, which is such a beautiful placement, the way that can manifest and your communication can manifest is that you might be very poetic. You might verbally paint very beautiful worlds. You might be able to, you might be like a very good poet, a writer, an artist. You might be able to create different ways to communicate different messages. Pisces is such just like an ethereal being. It's like a very much, it needs space. It needs the entire universe to paint a beautiful picture. So it just, the way it would manifest with his words can be very much an art piece. Like Mercury in Pisces can do definitely a lot of dream work, a lot of subconscious work, and bringing that up as well. Going back to that Mercury is the messenger of the gods in mythology. The thing to know about it is that Mercury does rule the mind, but oh, sorry, let me lower that. But Neptune rules the subconscious mind, and then Uranus rules the higher conscious mind. And the reason how all three of these planets kind of come together in this is that you kind of have to remember that the only reason that you can get these messages, like as far as getting these downloads from your subconscious, getting these downloads from your higher conscious, is from Mercury and that placement. That placement allows you to understand, because Mercury is a planet of communication, but he is also able for you to like process things in a clear way. He is the way things communicate from point A to point B, including with technology. So even though, for example, Uranus rules technology in a way, Mercury rules technology as well, but they rule it in two very different ways, and I'm going to explain that. So the way Uranus rules technology is that he's very innovative. He's a very innovative planet, wants new things, new upgrades, new downloads. It's like you always need to, something always needs to be updated. Something always needs to be done a little bit different on a longer term. Like, okay, how can we improve what we've already been doing? The way Mercury rules technology is that it rules the communication from one thing to the other. So for example, at basic, simple technology, if you're connecting one cable to another cable to get a certain thing to work, that connection is a communication between those 2 points. That is what Mercury rules, which is why during Mercury retrograde, technology tends to go a little bit haywire. That's the two different ways that those planets rule technology. So in understanding that, that communication from point A to point B, that's how you get these you can get these downloads and connect to the other planets, as far as like downloads from Uranus and downloads from Neptune, as far as your subconscious mind when you're doing subconscious work. And if you're working with your Neptune placement, if it's in a water sign, or if you're working with your Pisces placement, because Pisces naturally rules the subconscious mind, period. So if you're trying to work with that placement, that's a really good way to use. You're gonna have to kind of get your Neptune in there. You have to get all of your other planets. It can't just be Mercury. Mercury, yes, is a planet of communication, but he does communicate to you messages from other planets, because other planets, like for example, Uranus is not necessarily the planet. It's not supposed to communicate. It's just supposed to be the energy of innovation, the energy of higher thinking, the energy of something new. But in order for you to get those downloads, Mercury needs to give it to you. That's the whole concept of the messenger of the gods, and it plays into mythology a lot, because Hermes was the only one that was able to travel around everywhere without getting like any like repercussions or anything like that. So the important thing to take from Mercury is that it also can kind of play into where there could be an air sign or a Mercury ruled sign in your chart. So for example, I have a Gemini moon. So even though my Mercury is in Capricorn, because I have a Gemini moon, I intellectualize my emotions, not necessarily my thoughts, because my thoughts are ruled by that Capricorn energy, but my emotions are intellectualized. So you have to look at where mercurial energy is in other parts of your chart. So for example, if you have your different, like for example, your 7th house is in Gemini or Virgo. If your 7th house is in Gemini, then you need a partner that communicates, that kind of it speaks to your mind, but it very much brings you new like knowledge, and you can have very deep conversations with, because Mercury also needs to take things like very deep. It wants to learn. Like that mercurial energy is very much about thoughts, ideas, and Geminis and Gemini energy in certain placements of the chart will be very open to new things. They get very much like hyped up about, oh my god, wait, this is kind of a new concept I haven't heard about. Oh, whoa, you just mentioned something that I didn't know. Tell me more. Like, it's a very curious energy. It's a very, okay, I want to absorb. It's a sponge. So that's kind of like a way that it plays into the chart. It's definitely how we think, how we learn. Let me see if I want to add anything else. Yeah, it definitely plays a role in other areas of your chart as well, because not everybody's chart is aligned the way the planets are meant to be and the way that the houses are meant to be. So it can play its role in different areas. So if you have, for example, a lot of like I don't know, Gemini stellium or something like that, it is important. By the way, a stellium means that you have more like a really large amount of the same sign in that in your charts. For example, if you have 5 planets in Gemini, then that means that you are a person that needs to communicate a lot. You need a lot of verbal communication. You need to have a lot of interactions. You need to be put into positions where you're learning. You need to be creative. You need to be writing. You need to be painting. Whatever it is that gets your kind of juice going, that's something that you need to do. When you kind of start paying attention to that energy, as far as like if you have so much of one thing in your chart, and especially because that'll end up ruling something in your houses, that's something that you need to address. When you don't address the need to express, especially with Mercury, if you restrain mercurial energy, you will have a lot of struggle in your mind. You can make yourself very depressed. You can overanalyze things. You can overcomplicate things for yourself. So it's very important to kind of let yourself be open when it comes to Mercury and kind of air. It does do well with air sign in the place of Mercury as well. If you do have air, like an air sign, that's not Gemini or like, you know, Virgo, even though Virgo's an earth sign, is ruled by Mercury as well. It just takes a little bit longer to move, and we're going to talk about that in the Virgo video when we go through that. But it is important to just allow yourself to be open to receiving messages. Don't block that energy, especially if you feel like you have writer's block, for example. Look at your Mercury placement. Look at where Mercury is also ruling in your other areas, because then you can really analyze what that energy is and how to best work with it. Yeah, I think that's everything that I wanted to cover. I think I pretty much covered everything. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm gonna be posting more videos throughout the week, so keep a lookout for that. All my links are in the description box below. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.